Hello, I'm Raikes, VCS Advocate for Safer Bristol Executive, reporting back on the latest Safer Bristol Partnership Executive Board meeting of the 21st of February 2013. So I'm just going to give you some key points of what was discussed, and you can either contact me by email, phone me, or get in touch with Oscar for more information about any of these key issues. The first thing that was discussed was around the counter-terrorism local profile and channel process, which is basically the PREVENT programme, and that was presented by DCI Martin Triggle to give an update. And I think their main issue was that they really want to, at the moment it's very much police led, and they're very much hoping to get other agencies to take a bit more of a lead on that programme, because it is meant to be an interagency process. We then spoke about the police and crime plan. So the police and crime commissioner team were present. Mark Hole gave that presentation. He talked through the plan for 2013 to 17, and there were quite a few comments raised about the current plan. I think they've already had a lot of comments in, and as yet the plan is still possibly a little bit conservative and not really reflecting the diversity of Bristol. And yeah, so we a few people raised points about that to try and see if it can be amended in line with those concerns. It's too late to get your points in now, but I would say have a look at it. They closed the consultation for that on the 22nd of March, which is today. So no doubt you can still get comments through to the Police and Crime Commissioner, but have a read of it. Mark Hole also talked about the Community Safety Grant allocation by the Police and Crime Commissioner, which has not long been agreed and approved now. Bristol was awarded, from a formula they ran, 37% of that budget, which equates to about £240,000. I think Bristol are fairly happy with that and consider it to be a fair proportion of the overall budget. And what Mark's saying is the Police and Crime Commission is encouraging community safety partnerships to continue to fund projects they've funded up until now, rather than shutting them down without proper review and thought about what's working and what's not working. What the Police and Crime Commissioner has said, Sue's asked that they should continue with current projects while reviews are carried out, unless there's an exceptional reason why not to, in which case they've got to let her know or present a business case as to why they want to close a project down more swiftly. But in the meantime, it's carrying on with those, and then presenting new projects where they've got gaps or potential to do so to her, and those are mostly going in. They've gone in and are being looked at the moment and either approved or not. And again, they've got to align with her 4 key priorities. And then over the next year, they want to look at what work being delivered by community safety partnerships should really be force-wide and what should be very locally driven. And they're hoping by this time next year to be in a position to agree certain work to be funded by the Police and Crime Commissioner centrally for across the force area. And then they'll obviously have other work that they will see as very much locally driven, and they'll be awarding the funding to the community safety partnerships to administer and oversee that work. But it seems to be very, what I am hearing from Safer Bristol and other community safety partnerships is that the Police and Crime Commissioner and their team have been working very much in partnership, consulting, talking to the partnerships, and trying really hard to talk to communities as well, and to the voluntary sector, to get our view on what should and shouldn't, be funded and how it should be done. So very transparent team there, and from what I've seen, people who want to find out more, they will find them accessible if they get hold of the Police and Crime Commissioner team, Mark Hole in particular, or through Oscar as well. You can get contact with them. They've had a lot of queries from voluntary sector around funding, people thinking that perhaps they can go straight to the Police and Crime Commissioner for funding, and that's not the case with the main community safety funding. But they are looking to launch a new fund, which has just been announced, I believe, and it's to be called the Community Action Fund, and will be launched on the 1st of April. It's going to be administered by the Police Community Police Charitable Trust, Police Community Trust, and do get in touch again with Oscar if you want to know more about that. Or no doubt you could go to the Police and Crime Commissioner's team, and they've got their main information email you can go through as well to find out more about it. It's not for large amounts of money, but it could be very useful for start-up or community-led groups. Yeah, so that was an important update at Safer Bristol Executive from Mark there. And we then went on to talk about the health and wellbeing strategy that's also up for consultation. There was a final draft put out on the 28th of January, and Dr. Janet Maxwell, who's the new public health lead for Bristol City Council, she spoke about that and gave us an overview. There were comments. I know I raised that it doesn't quite seem to look enough at the disproportionate outcomes for equalities communities with health and wellbeing, and she agreed with that. And they're really keen to get as much consultation as they can around this strategy. So again, if you've got important points to raise, do go through FOSCA for that, or get hold of, go through to Janet Maxwell to put your points through to them. One other point I've just remembered on the police and crime plan is we raised that there wasn't enough in there to talk about the voluntary sector as key partners for community safety work, and that was taken on board as well, I hope. We discussed, as we always do, the crime and disorder performance across Bristol. There is a general trend still in the direction of crime going down. But at the same time, we're hearing that victim satisfaction is going down. So something's wrong there, because crime's going down, but the general perception of the community, their satisfaction in services is not going up as you'd expect. So that was raised. But in terms of performance, overall, it's actually Bristol's looking quite positive. Crime's going down. That is happening nationally, but also we're creeping up in terms of our core cities, in terms of us doing better around tackling crime more effectively. Hopefully that's why anyway. We had another paper introduced on the Reducing Offending Abroad and the Revolving Door report, which was, there was just a brief summary on that, which you can see more information on if you look at the minutes of the Safer Bristol Executive. We had a report by Gillian Douglas on the FGM, Female Genital Mutilation Inquiry Day report, because there was an inquiry day in December 2012 where they brought together experts, community representatives, organisations that are working in that field to look at the issue for Bristol. And we had a bit of a discussion around the findings that came out of that day, which were very interesting, and a number of points were raised from members about that and queries. We brought up that the partnership agreement for Safer Bristol Executive is due for a refresh, so all of us were asked to go away, look at that and come back if we had any changes we wanted to be made. Gillian then brought up the point around YOI Ashfield being closed, which is a really serious issue for the local area, because that's our main young offender institution for the South West, and obviously the young offender institution for Bristol young people, and it's definitely closing down and becoming an adult offender institution. So Gillian was actually asked to bring this issue to Safer Bristol for discussion. It's a done deal, but Bristol are working to try and see if they're working to see if they can get some system in place for young offenders from Bristol to not have to go to Feltham, which is a long way away, not ideal for our young people, and they're hoping that young people will be able to go to Bridgend, which is in Wales. And we then closed the meeting looking at the new probation white paper, Transforming Rehabilitation. The chair of Safer Bristol, Marilyn Harrison, who is from Bristol Probation, talked that through. It's quite complicated if you're not from the field, but it's clearly got a massive impact for our local probation trust and our local services for offenders and for probationers. And Marilyn was really showing a lot of concern around government proposals for changes which appear to be sort of pushing probation trust towards privatisation, and also really difficult systems of payment for work with offenders, including things like they must not reoffend for payment to be given. And all in all, as I said, it's quite complex, but I think it's something we all need to be aware of as a voluntary sector, because it's going to have a tremendous impact locally on services. again, you can find out more information about that by going through to the Safer Bristol website and also talking to Bosca. And then we discussed restorative justice, the next steps. Jenny and Douglas talked about that because there was recently a conference on setting up a Restorative Bristol board, and the first board meeting is due very soon on April the 11th. And this is quite exciting really, because it's all around how can we bring together all the various work that's being done around restorative justice from Bristol. We've got some really pioneering, innovative work going on, and there is a real desire to see this piece of work moving forward, so that we can be far more collaborative and consistent in our approach, and also share the good practice really well. Again, you can find out more about that too if you're interested. And that's it really. Those are the key points that came out of the latest Safer Bristol Executive Board meeting. If you'd like to know more, please get in touch with me. Thank you. Bye-bye.